Hey, startup family. Hope you all are doing good. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you all who all are joining us globally today. I am Parth Varu, Event Program Manager for Reactor Bengaluru. Before we begin, please let's go through our code of conduct. We are all here to learn together, so please be respectful of other people's views, understanding of differences, and being kind and considerate in the way you all engage. Yes, obviously, we do encourage you all to participate. Please drop all your questions in the chat section. And now, as we all begin the session, I would like to bring in our host Vinayak and Vivek for the session.
Hey Parth,
Hey
good
Vivek,
morning.
hey Vinayak, very good morning to you all. How
Hi
you all
everyone.
Good
doing?
morning. All good. I'm at office. You can see, that's a nice background.
Yep. You've been
Yep.
office
And
today since morning 5:45 a.m. I guess.
yeah, I think that'll. Thanks for call out. Yeah. Anyways, hi all. I'm Vivek, Senior Cloud Advocate, and thanks for tuning into Scale Up Thursday show. And we have Vinayak. Vinayak, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi everyone. My name is Vinayak Hegde. I'm the CTO in residence at a team called Microsoft for Startups. And as you saw in the video before, I think our team builds help startups, and one of the things that we do is build founders up. So I work very closely with founders to shape their technology vision and actually help them with people, technology, and processes to grow and scale. So today we'll be talking with one of our startups. Parth and we want to get Pranav from Professor Jim.
Yeah, we have one more amazing startup on Scale Up Thursday,
Hey Pranav.
and we have Pranav here. Hey, Pranav.
Hey guys, thank you for having me on the show.
Hi
Yeah,
Pranav.
by the way, Pranav is ex Microsoft, and 10 years back, right? 10 years back, you were in
A
Microsoft.
lot of time, a long time.
Yeah, it's an inspiration. So you work for for Microsoft. After 10 years, you become a founder. I mean, just it's just just a thing. I mean, I see your profile. You've been in a series of startups you have done, and you've been working in the AI. I think from the day it has been in place, right? So where we have already all been discussing about AI, almost like 10 years you've been working in AI. It's amazing to have you today here, and let's get started. With your startup, Professor Jim, you call it, or Prof Jim,
Call it Prof Jim.
Prof Jim.
Over to you
Okay.
guys to begin the session.
All right. First of all, thank you for having me on the show. It's a real pleasure to work with Microsoft and a team like yours. So, all right, let's get started. Let me start by giving a brief overview about who we are and what we do, and that will set the context for the rest of the presentation as we walk through how we go about building a product with all sorts of technology and including Azure. So we are PropGen. Our mission is to bring learning to life using generative AI, and uh, we set ourselves a goal to make sure that we are able to democratize education and bring uh, a lot of quality education to everyone in the world. So that is one of our mission statements. So let me start by introducing the team. I am Pranav. I am the CTO and co-founder of Prof Jim. I started coding at a very young age, and working with computers, making things, breaking things has always been something that really fascinated me, and that's pretty much what I've been doing. Prior to PropGym, I also co-founded a company called Flatpebble, which was another startup, and it was a marketplace for photography services. At PropGym, along with me, there is also Dr. Deepak. Uh, he is a prolific inventor. And he has over 200 issued patents, and he also co-founded Jawbotics, which was acquired by DoorDash a few years ago. One of my other co-founders is Maria. She's also a co-founder. She co-founded Candidly previously, and she was also responsible for a very popular section in the Verily magazine, and it garnered millions of page views every month.
Nice. I think a very star-studded team with like a variety of experience across complementary experience across the board. Yeah. So yeah, let's maybe talk a little bit about your product and the problem space that it's solving. So
Okay, sure. So if you look at the education space, you realize that some of the problems that occurred decades ago still exist today. For example, and if you have any kids in your family, you'll probably realize that. What happens is that in any given classroom setting, education seems to, or learning seems to move at the pace at the brightest kid in the class. So typically, what would happen is the teacher would ask, would explain something to the students, and they'd ask, does everyone understand? The brightest kid typically says that, hey, yeah, we understood everything, and then the discussion moves on to the next topic. And what often ends up happening is that only a partial or only a portion of students actually end up learning, whereas others tend to get left behind. The other issue that then happened was COVID, and it just compounded the issue. Meaning, what while the students couldn't ask the question in the classroom, you can imagine it's even more difficult to ask questions on a Zoom call. Sorry about that. And the other thing that has also happened is we noticed that the new generation seems to learn or prefer to learn a lot by watching videos over YouTube. And in fact, that is not just the kids, is even the adults who are learning stuff. They prefer to learn over YouTube tutorials rather than reading a particular book. And I'm sure some of you may be able to even relate to that. I know I personally prefer to use videos to learn because it's just a lot more engaging and it just engages a lot more senses. And the seeing things in action is a lot more easier to consume than just reading a particular book. So a lot of things we identified as far as the education was concerned that has a potential to disrupt, and where we could actually make a change where we could improve the learning outcomes for students. So, and this is only as far as the students are concerned, but there are also issues from the teachers side of things as well. In a classroom setting, for example, it's hard to teach a lot of things on a blackboard, and if you had to give any sort of experience to students to actually, for example, let's say you're teaching something about sea animals, right? And if you want students to get a sense of different kinds of sounds that a whale makes, for example, it's very hard to do that uh, on a real life on a blackboard. Similarly, let's say a physics teacher is trying to teach something like the motion of a ball when it is thrown. It's difficult for some students to visualize how it follows a parabolic path, for example. But if we have an interactive system where students can actually play with it and they get a much better intuition of how things work in the real life. So we felt that a lot of these things using technology can be brought to life, resulting in better learning outcomes for students. So that was one of the primary goals. We decided to start in this direction. Now, coming back to a little bit about what we just.
In the story of how the Buddha heard the Sutra of Golden Light in a dream, we have an account of how this Buddhist scripture entered the world. Yes, the Buddha taught this.
For example, if you look at current classroom teachings, the biggest issue that you find is that the lighting is extremely poor. The audio is typically extremely terrible. I'm pretty sure you've gone through Zoom meetings asking each other, spending the first 5 minutes, am I audible? Am I audible? Right? And pretty much everyone is able to correlate with that. So the experience is extremely poor. The way around that would be maybe to use a professional setting, have a professional photographer or a videographer to record the sessions. The problem with that is can get very expensive very quickly. Our data shows that a typical 4-hour video from shot professionally could cost anywhere between 25K dollars to 150K dollars, and that is just for a 4-hour session. And even if you manage to somehow do that, you still have the issue of keeping all of that content updated. It just becomes impossible, especially if, let's say, for example, you have a course on AI. Every other week you have something extremely new, and it becomes impossible to keep up with that. So, all the traditional way of creating video content uh, is extremely difficult to say the least. And that's where our AI and generative AI technology comes into play. So what we do basically is we can take as input any text content, whether it's a book, whether it's a Wikipedia article, or any content generated, or a blog post, for example. And it takes that as an input and it can convert it into a very beautiful video, which includes summarizing the content. It includes generating speech for it, creating an avatar that animates extremely well, and so on. It does a whole bunch of things, and it also adds a lot of interactive elements. We'll see later as a part of the demo. And having said that, while all this is great in theory, does it actually work? Our data shows that it does. We conducted a study showcasing testing with a whole bunch of students, comparing learning outcomes out of a textbook or an instructor-led video or video content created through our technology. And what the data shows is that there's a marked improvement when it comes to consuming the data in the way we present. And that's primarily also because we engage all the senses of the user, whether it's auditory, whether student is a kinesthetic learner by learning by example, or by actually, and for people with disabilities, we even have, automatic captions which are generated. So we are engaging all the senses of a user of a student when they're going through a video, and that improves the learning outcome significantly.
So Pranav, just go back one slide.
Sure.
So here your input is only text, is it?
Yes, only text. That's enough for us.
Okay, got it.
Do you want me to continue? Is there any questions?
No, I think you can continue. I think
We can continue.
you have a question. Yeah.
Okay, sure. All right. So while all this is great, let's talk a little bit about what makes it all happen. And the core of all of this is generative AI. Whether it comes to video or converting, text or images and all of that stuff. And we use this in a whole lot of different ways. For example, once we have the input as text, we summarize it, and there are different ways that we do that depending upon the target audience. But the idea is that we can customize a given input to a particular type of audience, and once we have the text, it also needs to be converted into speech. And keep in mind that this is not just regular text to speech, but because we are dealing with a whole lot of different types of audience or different age groups, the speech content needs to be customized for all of them. And it also needs to be a lot more expressive than what you typically find in normal text to speech technologies that are off the shelf. So we do a lot of that as well. Of course, there are also 3D avatars that we create and that animate very beautifully as well. The other great thing is that all of this can happen in just a few minutes, depending upon the length of the lesson. It can vary from a few minutes to a few hours tops, depending upon the length of the content. And at the end of it, what you get is beautifully laid out presentation, which syncs with the corresponding text and audio beautifully on the screen.
So Pranav, there is a question actually which is related to
Yeah.
this. Let me bring up. Um, the question is whether it also produces images as well.
It does.
Yeah,
It does.
and it there was a follow-up question on slides, but yeah, you have already mentioned about slides, but it does images. It does produce images for you as well.
It does produce images, and it does actually in multiple ways. So what happens is that uh, while we can look for open source images, we what we also do is we generate images on the fly which are copyright free using generative AI for images as well. So we have our own custom trained models which are designed for educational purposes. So if you, for example, if you want to generate an image of a heart, we have our own models we can generate using generative AI for that. Does that
And
answer the question?
yes. Also, I
Yeah.
wanted to ask about the slides. So we are saying professionally designed slides. So the slides that you're generating, are these like templatized or are they getting generated as images? Like, maybe talk a little bit more about that. Like, because you have a text, or are you summarizing the text and converting that into bullet points and stuff like that?
Yes, we summarize the text and the layouts are generated automatically. And depending upon the content, we also look for images that match the content, and either we get it from a public source or we generate it and present it to the user. The user can choose whichever image they want of the selected ones that are presented to the user. And of
Okay.
course, these are all editable by users as well.
Okay, so one other question I had is related to the text. Like, the how do you input the text? Do you just scan images of textbook with the or like maybe some kind of PDF, or is like a flat text file? So
So we
what is the typical input tip that you have seen?
So we take all kinds of input. It could be a PDF, it could be a web page, a blog, for example, or it could even be a simple blob of text. And we
Mhm.
scan it, we identify, for example, what are the headings, subsections, and so on. If the format allows it, if it does not, we automatically use AI to guess where the sections break up and automatically add headings to the slides as well. So, for example, if there's a particular section that does not have a heading, we are able to generate titles for that as well. So we do that automatically.
Cool.
Any
So
other
there is a
question?
question. Yeah, there's a question from the audience. So it's basically if I'm going and preparing a presentation and I specifically on Azure App Service, I know what I am going to deliver and I just need to give the input to the tool and it will generate slides, it will generate a video for me and all those things, right?
Correct. All you need to give is a URL, and it takes care of the rest. That URL could be a PDF, it could be a web page. It doesn't matter.
And just for audience, we did try this yesterday, and we will see the demo, how exactly it works.
Yeah,
Uh,
we will have a look at that. All right. So now, since we spoke about the content itself, that brings us to the next step, which is the avatar that is going to teach. And keep in mind that we are also our target audience also includes K through 12 kids, and as you might expect, kids are more uh, likely to learn from people they are familiar with. So we are able to create 3D avatars of instructors, and we can do that with as little as just 7 images. And for example, what you see here on the left is one of the course creators on our platform, and what you see are avatars that have been created of that person. And the technology is so accurate that using Amazon recognition, we are able to get close to 99% accuracy. And for primitive phones, what that actually means is that typically at about 85% is when the a phone is a phone is able to unlock itself with the avatar. So that's how close the avatars are when we convert a human into an avatar. Okay, now that you have an idea about what we do, let's go through how Azure comes into play between all of this. And in fact, Azure is actually the core infrastructure that we use. We are multi-cloud, but Azure also forms a large section of our entire infrastructure. Broadly speaking, what we have is the front end app is a React app, and we use which is hosted on an Azure app service. We are also using .NET as the backend REST API, and our data store is pretty much elastic at this point. Now, because the amount of volume that is involved, what we do is any conversion process that comes to us, we push it into Azure queues, and which then gets picked up by a backend pipeline, which does much of the heavy lifting, which is like looking at the content, parsing it, summarizing it, generating videos, converting into audios, and a whole bunch of different things around that. And of course, once the video is generated, we push it to Azure Blob Storage, and that is backed by Azure CDN, which helps us serve the videos to a large audience in a pretty scalable fashion. So, at a high level, that is our what our infrastructure looks like.
So
Can you talk a
rendering
little
in.
bit about? Sorry.
Sure, Vinayak. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Can
Vinayak.
you talk a little bit about how you use Elasticsearch?
So Elasticsearch is basically used to store the raw content. And what that helps us do is, for example, as we parse the text content and uh, as we want, as the slides are designed, all the text that is there on the slide, what is where, and all of that stuff is basically stored in Elastic. The one of the reason why we chose to do that is uh, as students are looking for a particular course and they're trying to find a particular piece of content where they want a concept that they want to understand. When they search for it, it allows us to identify what portion of which video and what portion of that video explains that particular concept, and take the user directly there. So that happens. That's the reason we choose Elastic as a data store, and because it allows a lot of search optimization on it.
Okay, so yeah, that is cool. I mean, I just wanted to highlight that. So basically, if I search for maybe, I say Pythagoras theorem, and there are maybe like 3 or 4 tutorials on that, what it will do is it will take me to the exact point in that video where it will seek to that point from where I can learn about that, right?
Right. That's what it is.
Okay, cool. That's pretty cool. Also, I think the other part of the stack, you're using Azure App Service and using .NET. Any specific reason why you use .NET? I mean, maybe talk about the choice of the stack also a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So basically, .NET allows us to, or rather, it gives us all the capability that we need in terms of scalability, in terms of performance, and also the fact that it's a lot easier to find resources who are familiar with .NET. And but the primary goal is that it's a highly performant, and it serves all our purpose. So that's the main reason we have chosen .NET as a backend service.
Vivek, you have any questions?
Yeah. So Pranav, how does the input work? So say for example, what is the source of input? So if I can give you a PDF, I can give you a URL, or I can give you an HTML format or different Excel sheet, maybe as well, right? So how do you take that as an input, and where exactly it sits. It's directly talk to the Azure App Service and work through that.
Yeah. So what happens is that it takes the input uh, and it pushes it into a backend pipeline, saying that hey, we want to convert this source into a lesson. So it gets pushed into the queue, and this is where a backend service kicks in. It goes and looks at that resource, understands what type of resource it is, whether it's a PDF or a web page, for example, and then it starts extracting content out of it. Let's say, for example, and it does a lot of optimization around it. To give you some basic example, we cannot take the content verbatim and start generating a lesson out of it. Two examples of it. Let's say, for example, if it's a PDF file, typically there might be say something like a page number at the bottom of it, right? And you don't want that into the part of the lesson. So we have to do a little bit of parsing on that. Similarly, if it's a web page, you'll see stuff like headers and footers and navigation bars and whatnot, right? We don't want that on the final lesson as well. So depending upon the content, it parses it for the a first level parse and extracts what is the most important content on that particular resource page or PDF, whatever the case might be. And then it goes through the rest of the process where it starts uh, summarizing content, transforming it, and so on. And once we have the text that we want to convert, it goes into a speech pipeline, which converts it into audio. It also goes into an animation pipeline where the character is made to animate to that text. And then finally, all of that, along with the actual content of the slide, is put together and pushed back into the system, which allows the user to see the final video. And I'll give you a demo. How about I give you a demo of it to actually see it in action right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just one
So
question I had. Just one more question I had was, you did mention that there are videos which is already there, which is being from the tutors, right? They have those videos, but not of good quality. It doesn't really come with that quality. Will this app also take in such videos as input and convert it into a better quality videos?
Yes. So we don't do it right now, but it's something that is in the works for us. So the whole idea is that we don't want people to do and redo everything, right? And video is definitely one such place where we can bring in that innovation.
cool.
Correct.
So Pranav, I think before we see the demo, had a more of a workflow question, right? So once you have generated all of the text, the slides, the images, and also the voiceover with the characters, is there a possibility that once it is generated, can I tweak it, like maybe the text on the slide, maybe add images, remove images, maybe also change characters? So is there like a workflow where you allows you to kind of do that? So in some sense, like you're generating the video and then the final edit, like if you, as if you are like a director, right? Like
Correct.
your software in some sense is shooting the video, but as a director, can I edit the content before it kind of goes live?
Yes, in fact, that is exactly what it does. So it's essentially a two-step process. In the first step, it creates slides and it presents to the user. The user can tweak it. They can replace images. It's like making present changes to any presentation. And once the user is comfortable with it, they can send it as a render job, and that gets converted into the final video. And of course, you can do and redo it as many times as you want. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it
Yep.
does.
Let's go to demo then, or
Okay, sure.
whatever the next slide is. Yeah.
Okay, let's switch to the demo for a little bit where we convert it. Okay, so let me give you a demo of what the final video looks like. Are you able to see my screen yet?
Yeah, we can see the screen, but it is blank. It's,
Okay, let me share it again. Give me a second to share it, please.
yeah, we can see it.
Okay, are you
Is it
seeing
a
a?
video?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a video. So I'm just going to play this video to give you an idea about what a lesson that has already been converted looks like, and then we'll see how we actually go about doing it.
Greetings. I'm Aristotle, or at least
No,
I
So I can hear the voice, but
not the video.
not the visual. Yeah.
All right, let me share it.
No, I don't think so. That's
Give me a second.
yeah.
I may have to enter.
So while we do that, people who have joined, uh, while we set up the demo, if you have any questions, uh, please post it in the chat, and we'll take them once the demo is being completed. Okay.
And and Vivek, I think maybe also you can post a link to the learn module also, which can actually help startups actually both sign up onto Founders Hub, as well as there's a learn module for like early stage startups as well. Yeah, so I think at the bottom of your screen you can actually see um, the uh, the links for for you to actually apply to Founders Hub, which we just talked about as well. So Professor Jim or Prof Jim is also part of Founders Hub, and they're using this credits to as you saw, to good effect to actually render their videos, and we talked a little bit about the architecture as well. So I think we are ready to go for the demo. Pranav, do you want me just make it full screen?
Yeah, sure.
Greetings. I'm Aristotle, or at least I'm his AI avatar. You might know me as a philosopher, but I'm also known to be the first biologist in the Western tradition due to my work classifying animals based on their behavior and physiology. Speaking of which, let's discuss a matter rather close to my heart, and to your heart. Yes, I am talking about the human heart. Now, the human heart is a finely tuned instrument that serves the whole body. It is a muscular organ around the size of a closed fist, and it sits in the chest, slightly to the left of the center. Your heart's main function is to move blood throughout your body. It also controls the rhythm and speed of your heart rate and maintains your blood pressure. The aorta is the largest blood vessel in the body. The vena cava is a large vein that carries blood to the heart from other areas of the body. Pulmonary arteries are
I'm just
blood
going to move
vessels
forward a
that
little
carry
bit to show you some
oxygen
other
or blood
interactive
from
elements
your
that we
legs.
have.
I stand. I believe that nature does nothing in vain. Let's look at the components of a heart using a three-dimensional model. Prepare to be amazed.
So as you can see, the part of the video also includes a lot of interactive elements, and this is something that I spoke a little while ago, right? And this is what makes it entirely different from a classroom, where a student can actually experience things as a part of the lesson, as opposed to just watching it. And this is one of the examples of that. And as you can see, I'm just playing with it. And of course, there are thousands of other simulations that are part of the part of our library. And this is not just animations. We also have full integration with coding. So, for example, if somebody is teaching a Python or Java, for example, the students can actually write and compile code on the fly. They don't need to install anything on the system. So, just like what you're seeing here, you get a code window, and you can write the code, compile it, and run it, and actually play with it. So, it really helps people get hands-on experience and improve the overall learning outcomes significantly by doing it this way.
This is really cool, Pranav. So I just wanted to ask, like, how do you embed the interactivity, right? Like, I mean, we saw you actually, moving the heart around, changing at different angles, because you have a video. So how do you integrate that technology? You have built custom components, or like, what are you using for that?
So, uh, we use a variety of techniques over here, right? And we can either use HTML5 canvas or
Mm-hmm.
libraries like 3.js to do 3D animation. But we also allow, or rather, we understand that a lot of this content has already been created out elsewhere. So we allow people to, if they have already have something, to embed it part of the lesson and just use it as is. So if you know that you already have an animation somewhere, or a piece of code, you can just embed it, and that works as well.
Okay, interesting. Very interesting.
Okay, so now let me switch to how we actually go about creating something like this.
So one more thing before we move on to the next, I think I just wanted to ask you is related to the lip sync, right? This is something that we talked maybe earlier, before the show. How are you able to simulate that? Because it's actually quite good, right? I mean, obviously, I think you are the character and all. You're making the characters both from historical characters as well as in the teachers' photos as well, which creates a 3D avatar. But how do you do that?
So it actually uses a variety of techniques to do that, and the beautiful thing about it is it actually relies only on the audio, which means that we can give high quality lip sync even for different languages, and it's completely independent of the actual language. So and it does through a bunch of blend shapes, and but primarily it relies only on the audio to create the appropriate expressions, including the lip sync. So as the
Also,
person moves from a neutral mode to something like excited, for example, it involves changing, not making not just the lips move, but also things like eyebrows and the head shakes and so on. So it's able to do that by looking at audio primarily.
interesting. So you're able to detect emotion and then take that emotion in the audio, like the tonality of it, and then convert it into like facial expressions, which is amazing. Um, Pretty cool. And I think maybe this is also a good time to ask. Like you mentioned, different languages. Like what languages do you support currently?
So a variety of them. Spanish is one of them. We can also make them do that in Hindi, Tamil, Telugu, and so on. We do support a variety of languages.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
So
Amazing.
as long as you have an audio file, in fact, from any source, we are able to animate it perfectly.
And the same thing about text as well.
Summarization is primarily English at this point,
Mm-hmm.
uh, but given an input, if you already have an input in other languages, uh, it's a it can transliterate and generate audio for you.
Okay. Yeah, let's move on with the demo.
Okay, sure. So this is what our main uh, interface looks like. As you can see, it's similar to uh, any app where you can add elements and make modifications to it. In this case, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to import a blog post, uh, uh, the startup fundamentals on the Microsoft site. We discussed. So this is the blog post on your platform, and I'm going to convert. Of course, I'm using some cache data here to speed things up, but essentially, as it's as simple as entering a URL, and see how it goes from here. So this is where the input essentially goes into the backend pipeline. Is going to parse the content and summarize all of it and create different slides out of it. And once it's imported, we'll see uh, in just a few minutes. We'll see the content at the bottom. We'll see how you can edit it, and ultimately, I'll show you a video that is the video has been pre-rendered, but I'll show you how the video looks like. Okay, so this is a blog post that generated into the site. So as you can see, it has found appropriate images for that content. It has extracted headings from it, and you can see that it also has text. And of course, you can make modifications to it if you like, just like any other editing platform. And it does what I've done is I've taken a few different paragraphs just to make it quick. But in each of these cases, it found appropriate images, or if it didn't find it, it would have generated the same images. And of course, you can make changes as you like. Now, let us have a look at what the pre-generated video of this thing looks like. I've chosen a particular character, but once now, okay, so let me just switch back. So now that the user is comfortable with the slide making the changes, all you do is send it as a render job, and that will finally create the video. And the final video basically looks something like this.
Hi, and welcome to this course on startup fundamentals. Let's assume that you're here because you're working on an early stage startup or a startup idea. You'd like to make sure you have a good grasp of essential startup concepts before we go much further. How will you know if founding a startup is right for you? For many startup founders and aspiring founders, there are a few critical considerations that can help to answer this important question. To be a successful entrepreneur, you need to be passionate about solving a problem. Many successful entrepreneurs have reported that they would pursue their idea regardless of whether there was a business opportunity. They were that passionate about solving that particular problem. The road from startup idea to successful business is often a long one, with the typical time from launch date being anywhere from 4 to 10 years. Bear in mind that few startup founders set out with anything like this commitment up front. It's entirely rational.
So as you can see, the speech is also extremely natural, and it's hard to tell whether it's text to speech or something that a human actually recorded it. And of course, the teacher or the user can change a whole bunch of different avatars and create content. Or of course, they can always be themselves. And we are also able to replicate a teacher's voice to add that extra layer where the students, somebody taking a classroom, and the students would feel extremely natural seeing their teacher in their teacher's voice and in their teacher's style, even taking the course. So it's pretty amazing how it all comes together.
Nice.
It's definitely amazing. Like I'm still thinking about it. Like how
Yeah.
exactly this is happening, right?
So sometimes
And there
you,
are
yeah, sometimes you
So
see like technology, right? But when it actually,
yeah,
when it all kind of comes together, it feels like magic. And I think this is like one of those, aha
this is
moments,
magic.
wow moments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there are two questions, by the way, Pranav, from the audience. So one of the question is, do we have a free trial to try this out today? Like, if somebody wants to try this out, is there a way to do it, or is it something if they contact you and you can give them access?
We are in a private beta right now, but feel free to shoot me an email and we can work things out.
Yes, and there is one more question is basically how much time it does it take to render this? Say for you have created slides pretty fast, but how much time it does it really take to render this into final video?
So essentially, it depends upon the length of the content. But assuming it's a 1 hour video, say about 4 to 5 hours.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much good, right? Basically, even if anybody is creating such content, would spend some time. If it is 1 hour video, like we always spend more than 5 hours preparing for that content, for sure. That's
And the other
that's
thing
true.
is
And
also that, the updates is creating the first time is one portion of it. But what a lot of people miss is to keep that content updated. Imagine trying to shoot, if you're shooting normally, imagine trying to shoot the whole thing again. Over here, that's no longer the case. Let's say you have a lesson on Excel. Tomorrow, Microsoft releases a new version. Updating it is just incremental changes that you make to what you already have, and boom, you have a new lesson with the latest version in no time.
This is pretty
Got it.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what even audience. I mean, Pranav, I don't know whether you're seeing those messages on the screen, but there are a bunch of messages which I posted. Like the audience are like, it's mind blowing and amazing technology and wonderful, wonderful. No words. Those are the messages we are getting from the audience as of now. So all good, all goes to you. You know, amazing product.
Yeah, and in
That's
fact, we cannot be excited enough to bring this technology to users and make a huge change to the next generation of kids, where we think and we hope that they are able to learn much better, much quicker than what probably you and I went through 20 years ago.
Definitely. I think this gives her engagement, that's one of the ways. And there are a lot of people who love blogging and then creating, video content. And they could just blog and, just use your tool to convert it into a video content and share it across. And there is a lot of use cases which is associated with this. So that's the thing. So, any other questions you have, Vinayak? And I think there are questions coming in as well. Just one second. Okay, there will be comment section below video. Will it take comments and will respond to it? I think people are thinking about new ideas behind this tool now.
Soon, yes, soon, yes, would be my answer.
Yes, it is coming. Any more questions from the audience? I know there will be a lot of questions, and I mean it's lot of thought provoking things we discussed today. Each time
And
we
this is
do
just
scale
the
up
starting.
Thursday, each time we do scale up Thursday, we see different tools, different use cases. We always feel like, oh wow, this is amazing technology. Like, wow, nice to build all of these things.
So, Pranav,
Yeah,
because
and
we're getting a lot of questions on the AI front, can you talk a little bit about the rendering engine? What are the the different stages? Can you talk a little bit about the AI pipeline? Like, how do you manage the models? How do you kind of upgrade them? That part as well.
so there are a whole bunch of them involved. Some of them, for example, would involve the lip sync. Some of others would involve hand gesture. How do we move the hand depending upon what is being taught? So we use a variety of techniques. At this point, uh, I cannot go into a lot of details for obvious reasons. Some of the patents are being filed for, but there are pieces of different models that go into just about every piece of this.
Cool. And in terms of the cognitive services of OpenAI, how do you involve them? Can you talk a little bit about that as well?
Sure. So OpenAI is one of the pieces that forms a solution stack where we use summarization and all. But on top of that, there's a layer that goes into post processing the content, and because our content is designed to generate different output for different audience. For example, a single uh, uh, blog or a lesson or a textbook can be taught to kids of different ages, and it has to be customized to that particular audience. So it goes through a lot of pre-processing and post-processing before that content gets converted into an audience of a particular type of audience. And keep in mind, there's also a whole bunch of audience that may not even be all that familiar with, say, English, right? So there's a lot of things that goes on that make it happen, uh, but in a simplified way that helps create content for a particular target audience.
Cool, cool. Vivek,
And a lot of talented engineers uh,
sorry, go on,
make it
Pranav.
happen. Sorry.
Yeah, please go on. So I was
Yeah.
just asking Vivek if there are any questions from the audience or if he has any further questions.
No, I don't have it. I mean, audience, no questions. It's just praise is coming all the way, like for Prana.
Glad people are liking it. And if anybody in the audience would like to join us, we are actively looking to hire talented engineers, whether it's AI or some other fields. Please feel free to shoot us an email. We are actively looking to expand and hire the right talent. It's pretty exciting to work with. I can promise you that.
So Pranav, maybe you can also share your details to so that the audience can, in some sense, connect with you, because you're looking to do that as well.
Sure. I put my email on chat? Would that work?
Yeah,
Uh,
just put it on the private chat. I'll just post it here.
yeah, yeah.
So if you, I mean, for audience, if you have any questions, do let us know. I think we are pretty much done with the demo and everything from the session perspective. Um, if you want to play around with this and you want to see how exactly this works, you can contact Pranav, or you can go into their website and
Yeah.
share your details with them, and they might reach out to you and give you access, and so that you can play around with this
Yeah,
tool.
it's profjim.com, PROFJIM.com. Easy to remember, just go there or just reach out to me at Pranav at profjim.com.
Just posted the email to everyone.
Awesome. Sorry, I think the spelling is wrong. You might want to just update it to profjim.com.
What did? Oh, I did the wrong spelling again. Is it?
Yeah, if you just see the chat, let me just
Oh,
post
you
it.
resent it to me, is it? Oh, okay. No, I'm editing it.
That's the
Yeah,
link.
so you can see on the screen, Pranav's email ID. So if you want to connect with him, you can mail him there. Cool. I think with that, if there are no further questions, I think Vivek, we can wrap up the show. We're almost at time. Um, Unless like there are any specific aspects that you want to cover. I think one thing maybe quickly, I think we can talk about Pranav is, I mean, we talked about it briefly about like what are the use cases, what are customers using it for. I think you briefly talked about it, but I think we can, before we end, I think we can just talk about who is your kind of target market in this sense, at least to start off with. Obviously, there are a lot of use cases for this as you expand as well, but currently, what is like your target market as well?
So there are a whole bunch of use cases for this. For example, all content creators, people who have a blog is one of them, but also textbook publishers, right? They already have content in terms of textbooks, and they would like to create online courses out of it. What, like I said, a 4 hour video, shooting a 4 hour video costs anywhere from $25K to $150K. Imagine converting thousands of books using this technology and making a course platform, for example, like Coursera. So, textbook publishers are one of the other use cases for it as far as the B2B segment is concerned. For B2C, typically it's blog publishers who would like to try out different channels to get different audience. So they might already have a blog, but they also want to reach out on YouTube. So they can use the technology to do that. Since they already have the content, we give them the video out of it.
Cool, cool.
What is the typical pricing?
So it varies. It can vary depending upon the volume. But of course, right now we are mostly just working with the B2B customers, but that probably won't apply to B2C customers. So since we are in beta, we don't have an official pricing at this time, but it would vary depending upon the use case, essentially.
Good. Cool. I think we don't have any more questions. Pranav, thanks for coming on to the show. And
Thank
this
you.
was really, it was amazing. It was mind blowing, and a lot of learning, right? If I have to think, just go back and try this, every day and see what happens on your tool is more interesting for us as well. thanks for coming in. Thanks for taking our learn module and converting it as well. I just gave Pranav yesterday the learn module. Can you try this and see how you can generate it as a video? And like, Pranav, yeah, I can. We can do it. So it is like, we are here. That's fast it is. So people who want to try, reach out to Pranav and get started with it. Thank you, Vinayak, for being on the show. Thank you, Prats, for hosting us. Thank you all for joining. Keep learning, and we are going to come back with a new set of startups in March. So see you then. See you all. Bye bye. Have a nice
Right.
day.
Thanks for
Bye,
having me.
everyone.
Bye.
Good night.